What's going on, everyone? Welcome into an at-home edition of the Broncos Breakdown because we've got a report coming in from ESPN that Denver is interested in Shaquille Leonard. So we're going to break down the possibility of the Broncos signing Leonard, what that would mean for the Broncos and Leonard, and overall whether or not I think it'd be a good idea for Denver to pursue Leonard. But let's first look at the source of this report, as we got a tweet from ESPN saying, Ed Weirder, my sense is Cowboys defensive coaches have encouraged front office to sign Shaq Leonard. Cowboys, Eagles, and Broncos have shown interest per source. So, am I surprised by this? Not necessarily. I mean, Alex Singleton, unfortunately, has not been a good linebacker this year. I mean, it's been a complete 180 from last season. And if we've learned anything from the Sean Payton era, it's that he doesn't care what you're paid, when you were drafted, and what round you were drafted in. He wants to get the best 22 players on the field. So if he thinks Leonard would be an improvement from Alex Singleton, then I'm not blown away that he would go out and have some interest in signing Shaquille Leonard. I mean, Leonard's an interesting player because on one hand, the guy was the most dominant off-ball linebacker for the first 4 years of his NFL career. I mean, he was right there with Roquan Smith, Fred Warner, Matt Milano, like the best inside linebackers. But when we look at what he's done since 2 years ago, it's been a major decrease and a major sharp decline. I think there is some real fear that the injury he sustained last year that cost him to miss pretty much the entire year, some nerve injury, is long-term. And that sucks. It's beyond just being a bummer, right? The guy was, at the top of his game, and he was at the best linebacker in football in my eyes. I mean, in his first 4 years, he had 11 interceptions. I mean, think about it. Like, Pat Surtain's awesome, and this is not like comparing the two, but even Pat Surtain doesn't have 11 interceptions in the first 2.5 years of his career. I mean, he had 17 forced fumbles. 17 forced fumbles. The best defensive ends in football don't get more than like 4 or 5 forced fumbles in a single season. He had 17 in the first 4 years. So if you can get that playmaker, and Denver's defense is in a good spot right now, but man, a guy on the street who's not even 30 years old with all those career accolades, 3-time Pro Bowler, 3-time All-Pro, it's hard to not at least have some level of interest in him. So let me know right now, before I get even further into this, do you think the Broncos should go out and sign Shaquille Leonard? Yes or no? Give me your honest opinion down below in the comment section. Are you like, hey, PD, this defense is kicking ass and taking names. They're on a 4-game winning streak. Singleton was paid in the offseason. Let's give it a little bit more time before we pull the plug on a guy that got a nice contract back in March. Or are you in the camp of, no, there's an opportunity to improve. This defense is definitely playing very well. However, they're sitting at 5-5 right now, so it's not like they're in the playoffs if it were to end today, if the season were to end today. So they still have some work to do, and if Leonard can come in here and help get Denver over the hump, you think that's a good idea? Let me know down in the comment section. Personally, I'd do it. I would do it. It's Shaq Leonard, right? It's Darius Leonard. He was the best linebacker in so many ways not too many moons ago. I mean, we're not talking about adding a guy who's like 32 or 33. Maybe you can get a little bit of juice left out of the tank. We're talking about a player that was just an all-pro 2-3 years ago. So if the injury concerns are real, I can understand why there would be some hesitancy, right? If teams kind of do some medicals and some physicals on him and they're like, listen, he is just not able to play at a high level anymore, then yeah, I could see why a team might decide to pass on them altogether. I do think it's a little bit interesting as to whether or not Leonard will be interested in the Broncos, unless Denver says you're going to start day one. If I'm Leonard, like I'm looking at a team like the Cowboys, right? That's a team that's definitely going to the playoffs in my eyes, and they lost a starting linebacker. So he kind of stepped right in and, right from the jump, get a lot of snaps and get a lot of starts. Whereas in Denver, what if they want to go with the rotation? And that's not something that Vance Joseph has really done a lot of this year, rotating Jewell and Singleton out with like Drew Sanders. I mean, we've seen Drew Sanders come on a little bit more at times, but no, I don't think Denver would be interested in making a rotation. And if I'm Leonard, he definitely isn't interested in joining a rotation. That's what he was doing in Indianapolis. He was getting He was getting the starts, but he was playing 70% of defensive snaps. And for reference, at the start of his career, he was getting between 92 to 97 or 98% of snaps. I mean, he was barely coming off the field. So to go from playing 95% of snaps down to 70, if Denver calls and says, we're not going to just outright bench Singleton and give you every single snap, we want to keep guys fresh, he might think, yeah, I'm going to pass on that. That was something I didn't like doing in Indianapolis. And he was very vocal about it. Like, he did not shy away from telling the media, I'm healthy and I want to play more. So I could see that being a hurdle to get across. Really quickly, I just want to give a shout out to our sponsor for today's at-home video, Prize Picks. Thanks to Prize Picks, I've had an absolute blast watching some meaningless-ish football games. We all know there could be some stinkers of primetime matchups or, Pac-12 after dark, whatever it may be. However, with Prize Picks, you can stay locked in, and all you have to do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and based on how many players you pick, well, that increases your potential winnings. So you could spend, or you could put $10 down to win $250. So make sure you check out Prize Picks. They do an absolute awesome job with great stat projections. It keeps things fun. It keeps you invested in games that maybe you don't have a horse in the race, but with Prize Picks, you absolutely will. So I made my selections on Prize Picks for Turkey Day. I went 3 for 4, so we're going to do better this upcoming with Sunday, but ride with me or fade me over at Prize Picks. You guys are going to get a $100 deposit match when you go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for that $100 deposit match. All that information is in the comments and description of today's video. Ultimately, I think Leonard's going to go to either the Cowboys or the Eagles. The Eagles are just addicted to treating the NFL like it's Madden. And kind of bravo to them, because Denver's kind of going down that path now with new ownership that likes to spend. But Howie Roseman goes, oh, that's a good player. Good teams add good players. We should add a good player. So I could see the Eagles adding him, especially with the injuries they have sustained at linebacker, just like the Cowboys. I also wouldn't be surprised if Shaq Leonard is kind of viewed a little bit like Pat Surtain was at the trade deadline. I'm not sure if you guys caught this, but the 49ers and the Eagles were both very interested in Pat Surtain just because they didn't want the other team to have him. I mean, they're at a point now in Philadelphia and San Francisco, and I would say Dallas too. The regular season is important and all, but they are making moves to make themselves better in January, right? They have guys on the field who are holding a little bit back because they are a team that plays in January and February. This is a team; those are teams that make off-season moves based on how they can have a nuclear arms race with San Francisco, right? 49ers get this, Eagles got to get this, right? Those two teams and Cowboys a little bit right now in the NFC. So ultimately, I think that's a more likely destination for Shaq Leonard. But if he does come to Denver, to kind of wrap up the video and let you guys go on to eat your Thanksgiving leftovers, I think it could be a very great move long term. He's going to sign a 1-year veteran minimum contract, and if it goes well with that team, I'm sure there'd be interest on both sides for a re-signing in the offseason. But if you can recapture that Pro Bowl, All-Pro player, I mean, that would be the ultimate steal, right? You think about long-term at the position of inside linebacker. Jewell is on an expiring contract. Drew Sanders was drafted to replace Josie Jewell, and he's just a rookie, and we probably overreacted, or I overreacted to Nick Bonito's rookie season, how well he's done this year. So I haven't been overly impressed from Sanders yet, but I'm definitely not going to panic after halfway through his rookie season and go, like, the guy's got no chance. But Alex Singleton isn't playing well enough to believe that he's going to hold on to a starting job for this year, next year, guaranteed. So if you think there's a diamond in the rough, and that diamond is like the best linebacker in football from just a few years ago, then who's to say you shouldn't go after him? Okay, that's going to do it for us on today's show. I'm going to get back to having some leftovers. Going to go watch Napoleon. I'll let you guys know. No, we're not going to make this a film review channel. All right, enjoy your Thanksgiving, post-Thanksgiving leftovers, and we'll catch up later.